Hello everyone, welcome to this webinar in which we're gonna talk about how to crack ISB. Before we get started, I would like to know whether you can hear me clearly or not. So a quick hi hello in the chat box would be great. Please let me know if I'm audible, and then we can get started. Also, please do let me know if you have any questions regarding specific questions regarding ISB. Let me know your profile. Have you already taken the GMAT? Are you applying in the December round? Any information that you think would be helpful for the discussion, please feel free to share. So I'll get started quickly by just talking a bit about myself. In the meantime, you can put in your responses in the chat box. So my name is Saquib. I am currently pursuing my MBA at Kellogg, and I'm also the co-founder of GMAT and GRE Viz. Um, I was mostly involved in building the product of GMAT Viz, and I've taken a GMAT myself. I have a 760 on the GMAT. Um, and while Kellogg MBA is pretty hectic, but at the same time, I do help students get into top B schools. In fact, GMAT Viz, apart from providing GMAT services, also helps students get into top B schools, be it in India, Europe, or US. Um, I'm just going to share very quickly the link of uh, our website, just in case if you're interested in knowing more about it. Feel free to take a look at the link uh, after the webinar. Okay. So that's it about me. And I can see Simran saying that I'm audible. So thanks for letting me know that. Uh, and again, if you have any specific questions regarding ISP, feel free to ask. The agenda is pretty simple. We are going to talk about a bit about ISP. I know almost everybody must have heard about it, especially if you want to pursue an MBA in India. But I'll just give you a brief summary of a few things. And then I'm going to talk a bit about the admission process. What can you do to ensure that, you at least get an interview call from ISP? Especially this year, ISP has changed their questions also. It is pretty important to know how you should tackle those questions. Um, and a bit about career opportunities. A lot of people come and ask me, can I do consulting in ISP? What's the prospect of tech, and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to touch a bit upon that, and also a bit upon the two different kind of campuses that they have, if there are any pros and cons of it. So yeah, that's about it. So let's get started with the first part where we, kind of look at ISP's basic statistics. So again, a pretty awesome school to pursue an MBA from, especially, if you want to get done in 1 year. And as far as rankings are concerned, I know they are relative, but as far as FT ranking, they're ranked 39 globally, number one in India, number four in Asia. Um, the important thing, and I think one of the best USPs about ISP is that it offers, I know they say the highest global jump, but even if you look at it from the domestic perspective, it offers a really, really good jump in your, salary if you're looking at it. In fact, I'm going to talk about one use case also in this webinar. Especially if you're stagnated in your career, if you're not moving, and if you're looking for, move to management and also looking for a huge jump, ISP definitely is a good place to look at. Especially, they are very strong. If you just look at the placement or the recruitment statistics, 65% of it is just covered by these three, functions. Very strong in tech, consulting, and obviously if you're looking at finance, because I would say these three are the main huge ones. Obviously, there are others also which I'm going to touch upon, but from most of the discussion that I have, I know that these three are the biggest chunk of almost every B school. So ISB is actually doing pretty well in it. What I like about ISB a little bit is from the work experience perspective also. I know a lot of, I have worked with a lot of candidates who have very less work experience. In fact, I think if I remember, Kanika had did not have a lot of experience. So if you have two or more, you can apply to ISB. I think which is pretty good. Though the average is closer to 4.5 years of work experience. Um, and lastly, As far as the salary is concerned, the average is close to 34, like as far as the 23 placement report are concerned, and the highest being close to 72 LPA, which I think is a pretty awesome number. So all in all, the reason I'm summarizing it out here is that if you're still in two minds, hey, whether I should apply to ISB or not, and especially if you're considering India as your location for MBA, then I would definitely say, apart from keeping some of the IMs as your in your school list, ISB definitely should be the number one priority. Um, and while you're evaluating ISB, I know it would be incorrect to just simply blindly say, hey, the stats look good, so just go ahead and go into apply to ISB. I know that would not make sense. So I would say there are three parameters that you can definitely consider when you are evaluating, ISB MBA. One obviously is, and this is something which is a little underrated, but I think it's very important to, go ahead, look at the profile of ISB, look at the kind of cohort or the kind of people that you would be, um, working with. So, for example, if you say that, hey, I am somebody who wants international diversity, I would want to study with people who are obviously in that case India would not make sense. I'm pretty sure you understand that. But if you're looking for a very diverse cohort where people from consulting, from finance, from product, from manufacturing, from sales, from entrepreneurships, from education sector, they have a huge variety of and obviously the batch size is huge, which is close to 800, 900. So that's the pros and cons of that. So are you okay with a huge batch size? Number one. Um, the pros is, as I said, the huge diversity of people that you would get exposure to. So if you have somebody who has limited work experience and you want to explore that aspect of learning from different people, having a huge batch size does help. Obviously, there are advantages of having a smaller batch size because you have close connections together. But in my opinion, still okay. Even if it's a batch size of 900, you don't really need to know all 900 people, right? Um, you can always find your own group, and at the same time you can leverage the different experiences of the people out there. um, as far as the second thing, campus life and curriculum is concerned, I will focus a little more on the curriculum aspect out here, because when you're doing your MBA, it is very important to have a mix of two to three aspects. Number one being, having the option to choose from a wide variety of subjects or courses, is how I would put it. Let's say, for example, if you want to explore strategy, and want to get into general management, something like that, do you have the option to choose wide variety of courses? Let's say, for example, you are in IT and you want to pivot into product. Does ISB have career courses? Obviously, they'll have it. Not to worry about it, but what kind of courses do they have? Are those something that do you find interesting or not? Third important aspect, I think that should be like the number one thing, would be what kind of experiential learning do they have? It is very important to uh, get hands-on learning, right? You can always learn stuff which are there in the book without paying 40, 50 lakhs to ISB. So do you get the opportunity to work on live projects? Do you get the opportunity to talk to industry experts or not? Those factors are very, very important, which ISB does have. But I would definitely say everyone has their own personal preference. So definitely take a look at that part, and this could also help you write your answers also. So this research is not just for your own understanding whether you personally like it or not. Even if you do like it, uh, and when you do like it, you can use that all of that research while writing your answers. The third factor is, because I know this is a huge factor for a lot of people, I've just put it here. In my opinion, it doesn't matter where you go, okay? Because the placements, as far as placements are concerned, they happen together. Okay, so whether you're in Hyderabad or Mohali, it doesn't matter. You will be placed in one pool. So it's just ISB. Think of it in this way. Don't worry about, hey, I'm in Mohali, so would there be any differentiation, or would I not get the same kind of opportunities? That's not going to happen. Professors fly to and fro to take classes. The only difference is that they're two different places. That's all. Okay. But at both these campuses, you get the advantage of studying, getting the learning from good professors, I know placement is a huge question for all of you, so no issues at all from that perspective also. So I just wanted to kind of, touch upon these three things. Very, very important. Might seem trivial because, um, as I said, you might just look at the stat and think, hey, let's go and apply to ISB. But I think it's very important to kind of look at these aspects also. You're happy with the curriculum, whether you're okay with the huge batch size, and are you really too worried about in which campus you would be studying, which in my opinion should not be the problem. Okay. Now, the main thing out here is if you want to get an admit in ISB, it is very, very important that once you're done with your research of ISB, you present a really, really solid application, especially this year when they have changed the questions. So, it is very important that you understand what exactly is ISB looking through these questions. In fact, some of the questions are similar to one of the B schools I'm going to talk about a little bit. And I'm going to come to this again, don't worry on the slide. What I would say is if you're starting off your prep, and I would love to know, guys out here, those of you who are here, are you done with your GMAT? Are you planning to apply in the December round? What's your status out here? Would be great to know a little bit more on this. Um, but let's just say I'm assuming out here that you want to apply in the December round. I would still say that, and this is something that I've discussed before, like about 3 months back in one of the webinars. I still wanted to bring this up very quickly. Spend at least, you know, um a week, I would say 3 to 4 days on understanding, end to end or jotting down and elaborating on all of these aspects while writing your answers, especially, looking at your work experience and the duration, the nature of the job, and how are you going to use all of this to, transition to the goal that you're looking at. So why I'm saying goal alignment out here is because let's just say uh, you have a very different kind of a goal. Let's say you're not looking at consulting, you're not looking at the usual finance and the product role. You want to go into something which doesn't align with what your work experience is. Like, to take a very extreme example, let's say you are working in, say, IT, and you want to go into operations, say, for example. Okay, been in IT for 5 years and I want to shift to operations, something like that, right? There's no alignment out here. Unless I really have a story, a real justification, then that's totally fine. I'm just saying from the pure work experience point of view, while you're writing your essays, uh, and this might seem a little controversial, but the way I would put is what you want to do is one thing. If it aligns with your work experience and your goal, go ahead, write it in your essay. But let's just say if there's not a lot of goal alignment, and you think that okay, this is operation something which I would like to pursue, but there's a chance that I might not get it. Okay, so what should I do? In those cases, it's very important that you spend some time and think what kind of goal can you write which aligns with your work experience, and you would be okay pursuing it if you did not get, let's say, for example, operations. These things do require time. Don't jump into directly writing the essays. Okay. Focus a lot on figuring out what is it that interests you. You know, um, in terms of extracurriculars, can you talk about it in some way or the other in your essays or in your application? Okay. And obviously, one important thing is, and when I look at your, I'll show you the questions again. It is very important to be able to talk about a little bit of leadership, team building capabilities. Now, if you have 2 to 3 years of work experience, I know showing direct leadership would be a problem. But even if you have led a project or taken some initiative, even minor ones while working in the project, do use that while writing your leadership qualities and stories around that. Even that is totally okay. Don't worry too much about it. Okay. I haven't touched a lot about the GMAT GRE score. I know some people are worried about it. I do get a lot of questions around it. I'm not going into this too much because um, their median is between, almost 80% of the batch is between 680 to 710, 720. That is the safest zone, as I would put, how I would put. But whether 680 would work for you or not, or is something that would depend a lot on your profile. Okay, or whether you can even get a call at 650 or not. So or if you're looking for a scholarship, do you need 740? So those kind of things are something which is really dependent on your profile a little bit. But I'll be more than happy to talk about it if you want to. I'm just sharing a Calendly link with you. Feel free to book a call with me, and then you know we can discuss more what score, what profile would make sense. Okay. I can see a question from Simran. Your academics, graduation, CGPA, marketing. For Okay, in 3.5 years, you have looked at four industries. That is actually a lot, but that's fine. It was an e-commerce startup which is doing extremely well. Uh, okay. See, 8176, 8.5 academics, similar is not a problem, honestly. Those numbers are pretty fine. What I would be more concerned about would be, not concerned, but what I would like to, you would have to think about it is in 3.5 years, you have looked at four different industries. How would you justify all of that? Because usually four industries, people cover four industries over a span of, let's say, 6 years, 7 years. So if you have any reason behind, switching jobs or switching industries, if you have a solid reason for that, then definitely go ahead and write your applications. Again, have a good GMAT score, obviously. But academics is not a problem. Honestly, it's not going to be an issue at all. Okay. I can see another question from Shamishta, which is, do we always seek LOR from a senior management who barely knows my work or an individual? Uh, Shamishta, it would make sense to get it from someone who has. Uh, so one thing which is there, ideally there should be at least a one level up. You cannot get a LOR from a colleague. Let me be very clear on that. Okay, so let's say you can get your LOR from your manager. That's totally fine. It does it the LOR doesn't need to come from the director or a senior manager or manager to manager level. That's not required. Ideally, you should get from somebody who knows your work really well and who is uh, ideally to whom you're reporting to. Let's put it this way. Okay. Colleagues somebody who is in a at a similar position in a different team would not work. You can get it from a client also, but again, remember that clients would not be able, unless until that you have worked with that client for a very long time, it would not make sense to ask the client to write, because some of the part of the LOR are true, they go too deep into it and asking for your strengths and weaknesses. And sometimes if you have worked with a client for just 3 months, they might not be able to talk much about it. Okay. So again, take a judgment call out there. Ask yourself how closely have you worked with the client? How much would they know about you? And all of that, and then take a call. I hope that answers your queries, Sharmish. If you have anything else, please feel free to ask. And if you're enjoying the webinar, I would request you to please hit the like button. At least it helps reach people who would be looking for, information on ISB. Now, very quickly, I would just want to touch upon the questions. Why did ISB change it, and what are they really looking for? So previously, there used to be just two questions. Okay. Um, Now they have broken it down into three, making one of them optional. If you look at the first question, notice that if you look at the keywords out here, they're looking for an honest portrayal of yourself, and where they're asking, emphasizing on your strength and weaknesses. Okay, and they're asking you to highlight the elements that have shaped your personal journey, giving relevant illustrations, basically examples. So understand that this is a question where they're just trying to know more about you. Okay. Now, don't take the personal journey and portrayal of yourself too literally, and just talk about your personal life. The way I would put it is, this question is trying to understand you, what kind of a person you are personally as well as professionally. So the way I would put it is, if there are aspects of your life which has impacted or shaped you in certain way, maybe some family experiences, your own personal experiences, maybe you're somebody who has, studied in 15 different schools, 10 different schools. I've had cases like that, by the way. So that could shape you as a person, right? You could either have, you're now somebody who's very comfortable with people or working in different environments and all of that kind of stuff. This is just a hypothetical example, by the way. It could be anything at all, right? But so take some instances from there. Um, Talk also about your professional journey a little bit and how has it shaped you personally. Okay, so take your personal professional story also. So it could be that maybe you have worked, say for example, in a startup, and maybe that has shaped you as a person. Maybe you have become somebody who can work in an unstructured environment. Maybe you're somebody who can work with very little information or data, things like that. So, and also remember that talk about your strength and weaknesses both. Don't just say, hey, I have become very resilient, no problems at all, no weaknesses. That would be a very poor answer. So, like if there are 400 words, try to set up first of all a summary of what are you going to talk about, or what are your high level strengths and weaknesses, and then use maybe the remaining 350 words. Like first 50 words should be about just the summary. The 350 would be used to write about your strengths and weaknesses, and either you could choose one or two strong strengths and weaknesses and talk about it, or you could do a mix also where you are taking while taking examples whatever strength and weaknesses come out of that story, you can highlight that while telling a story also. That would also work. But don't write weaknesses which are just for the sake of weaknesses. Don't say things like, oh, I have a habit, like my weakness is I like perfection or something like that. Could be a weakness, but I'm sure you can come up with something better. Okay. So yeah, the main point which I wanted to make out here is a lot of people might just end up writing all about their personal story, not even highlighting a little bit about their professional life, and because that also affects you personally, right? Maybe working at 60, 70 hours a week might you might have burnt out, and now you might have realized the value of spend giving, value of self care. That the professional part is affecting your personal life. So find a right balance between personal and professional. Okay, number one. I can see some questions in the chat box. I'm going to take it up. Don't worry. Uh, just let me just go through the next two questions very quickly. As far as the second essay is concerned, notice that this is they're just talking about two situations. This is similar to questions that I've seen in INSEAD also. Most of the top B schools now ask questions trying to understand you, which is like the first question, and then trying to take two different cases just to see how do you define success or failure. This is mostly where I suggest that you use your um, ideally your professional stories. Again, I've seen cases where people talk about, oh, I could not crack IIT, and that was my failure. It's a very weak story. I'll be very blunt out here. If you have worked for 3 to 4 years, I'm sure you must have failed sometime. You might have not done well in a project. Some of your idea might have failed. Some project might have got shelved. Something out there must be there. If you can talk about it, do that. You might have tried to, start a startup. Could not have worked. Possible, right? So. Uh, Talk about your strength and weakness as success and failure stories from that perspective, from professional perspective as much as possible. Very, very important thing out here is to focus on the interpersonal lessons. Sometimes people talk about, I did a project, did not do well, it got shelved, that's my failure, end of story. No. Also talk about your reflection part. Talk about how did it affect your relationship with your manager, with your teammates. Were they dejected when the project got shelved? Your teammates with you're working with, were they okay with it? Um, if your idea got rejected or accepted, how has it shaped the perception? Do they now take you more seriously? How does it? A good chunk of your answer of that 400 word should focus on this aspect. Okay, and again, the advices that I'm giving out here is I know might see it's like a generalized advice which would work. If you want more specific advice, I've already shared the Calendly link. If you want to work with us, feel free to uh, talk about it. Uh, the last part is where your research of ISB would come into picture. The thing that I've talked about. If you do a very good research, then you would be able to answer. And I would highly recommend answering this question. Though they have mentioned it is not necessary for you to write this essay, use it if there's something really significant that you would like us to know. Now, notice so far you haven't talked anywhere about your reason behind doing an MBA, or how would you use your MBA, right? What are your personal aspirations? So even if they're saying optional, make sure that you write it. Talk about, hey, I've done research on a peer ISB. This is where I currently stand. This is what I'm going to learn from ISB, and this is how I'm going to use for my goal. Show them the alignment in your goal. Show them how ISB fits in perfectly, in your plan. So this could be a game changer, because I know a lot of people might not even write this answer. So if you do that, I'm really, really sure that your application is gonna stand out. Okay. Uh, I can see a question. Will a gap of 6 months to prepare and give GMAT be negative on a profile? Simran, a gap of 6 months is not a huge gap. As long as you can justify it by saying, "Hey, I took GMAT. I wanted to focus fully on that, and and I was pretty sure that you wanted to do your MBA, so you wanted to focus on this and get through it. It will all depend on the story, but 6 months is not that huge, honestly. So don't, as I said, don't worry too much about it. What I would be more focused on would be to getting a very awesome GMAT score, and second is justifying, the industries that you have hopped. How would you justify the change in those 3.5 years? Okay. And why I'm talking about stories, Simran, and all of you who are out here is how well you write your story, or how well you change your profile or focus based on what you want, can decide whether you can get into ISB or not. So Vamsi is one of his ISB alum. He was a student, was our employee, went to ISB. So before applying for ISB, or before, even uh, getting associated with GMAT, this is where he stood. Had a 570 after 1 year of prep, was working at Infosys, but even he wasn't into hardcore coding. Also, he was more so in the support division, which wasn't doing well for his profile, right? Um, so what he did was he kind of worked on his profile. And similar, one thing which you can do is, since you are, you're taking a break, maybe upskill yourself a little bit. That's one thing which is highly underrated, but you can talk about, maybe doing a certification in things that you're interested in, so that you can show, hey, I want to go into product management. So while I was preparing for GMAT, I also, kind of did a course on, from Coursera or Udemy, Udacity, on product management, just to get a sense of how it works. Why I'm saying this is because in case of Vamsi, that is what he did. He realized his profile won't be good enough to get into ISB. So he took 6 months to prepare. Now he didn't take a break. He took 6 months to prepare for to get a 720. He identified his goal really well. That's why I talked about understanding your alignment. What do you really want to do? He thought, okay, from IT it makes sense to go into product management, and that was what excited him. So the startup that he joined was GMAT. Was, by the way, he joined us. He worked with us. We gave him a product management role. In fact, he helped us in a lot of different other activities also. So he strengthened his profile, got exposure how a startup works, was able to build a good story around how he knew what he really wanted, and he leveraged that, to kind of set his story and write the answer. So this is like really, really important to especially, if you're not really sure if their story would work or not, if you feel that your profile is not great. Um, with this, I have two more stories. Kanika got into, she had a very clear cut finance goal, had a very clear cut profile also. So in her case, we didn't have to do much in terms of changing profile the way we did in case of Amsi. In case of Kanika, it was clear cut, straightforward. She had a 680. I told you, right? Profile does matter. And think about it. She got into R3 with a 680 because the profile was really apt, everything aligned, and that is why she ended up getting into it. Then there was Saurabh, who worked with us on our GMAT, worked with us for the ISB application. In fact, I think I would not. I think I would highly recommend, looking at Kanika's and Saurabh's success story. Uh, Two pretty different uh, kind of success story. One where Kanika, as I said, applied with a 680 in rounds. We got into it. Saurabh had plateaued at 710, 720, worked on his GMAT, got a 750. We had to work a lot on his profile just to make sure it aligns a little bit, because there were a few gaps here and there, but we kind of made sure that we could justify all of those gaps and create a solid story to get into, get in call and then a final admit. So it does work out, guys. The only thing is that to make sure that you have a very, very strong story. Lastly, what I would like to add here is that if you want to work, if you especially want to work in R2 and R3, we are offering there's a special offer going on, and this is going to be till this Friday, where you could work on your application with us. Um, at $649, and you'll be working with me. So that's why I take limited students. You know that I'm already doing an MBA at Kellogg, so I do take up students, but clients, but very few of them. So if you're interested in it, I've already shared the website link. I'm going to share the Calendly link. I would say talk to us. I'm not just saying, just go ahead and, blindly buy it. Talk to us and let's, understand what your profile is. Let's try and figure out what other things that you should do, to get an admit from ISP, and, let's work together to ensure you convert it. So we have a very, very good success rate. Um, and we would usually close our R2, R3 applications very quickly for ISB. We don't work with a lot of students. So if you're interested, do book a call with us. Uh, and you can ping me directly also if you want to. One last thing which I would want to touch upon is if you're still, considering, I've talked about the applications, I've talked about your research also. Just one last thing is in terms of the placement, because I know one huge concern people have is regarding the huge batch size, whether you should have, would make sense or not, and whether they place people in different other, how many companies do come up, and all of that different kind of questions. So if you notice, they end up placing about 99.4% of the batch, which is like, 500 or 600 people, or in fact, more than that, sorry, it's like close to 800, right? Placing almost 99% of them is a huge achievement, in my opinion. Those who are not placed, also, I think in those cases, those are people who want to pursue entrepreneurship or do something of their own. It's usually that. If you notice, the pie chart out here, function wise offer, they don't have entrepreneurship out here. So it's a good chance that 0.6% of the people are pursuing something else. There could be people who might not be interested in placement at all or something like that. They have close to 300, 350 companies coming to hire, right? Even if, and so you can understand, even if there's a cohort of 900, if 300 companies are coming, three per company is nothing. You can understand, you'll easily get placed. What is very, very important is the increase in the pre-ISB and post-ISB salary. I think if you have, and I mentioned at the start of the webinar also, if you have stagnated somewhere in the salary and career, ISB is actually a pretty good place to go. And, uh, it's like a good reset button for your career. Especially if you're looking at consulting, finance, or technology. Obviously, as you can notice, they do place in sales and marketing. They 7% in operations. It's still it's a pretty good number in my opinion. Like about 50, 60 people are still going in operations. Um, Again, a very good number. About 50, 60 people are going in general management, leadership roles. About 1%. I know 8 to 10 people are still going in human HR also. So they have a wide variety of opportunities. So it's not that if you want to do something, ISG would be able to help you with that. So definitely keep that in mind if you're still in two minds whether ISG would make sense or not. And as I said, if you want to ensure that you get into ISB, do a research first. Spend about 7 to 10 days doing research on ISB as well as on yourself. If you're working on the application on your own, if you're working with us, then obviously we'll help you with that research. We'll tell you a lot of stuff, especially the second part, which is the story part, writing how to especially if there are gaps in your story, if you have switched a lot, how do you justify all of that? Is something that we can definitely help you with. So, you know, uh, but these are some of our success stories. If you're looking, just want to put it across. If you are looking at ISB, but you're also looking at schools which are, in US or Europe, definitely, get in touch with us. We can talk about that too. Um and you can notice a lot of people have got scholarships in some of the best schools, Extern, UCLA, with almost 50% scholarship. So, uh, if you're interested in US Europe B schools also, do get in touch with us and we can talk about it. So yeah, that's it from my end, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Um, and just again reiterating, this offer is only for the first three students. Once we have that, most probably we are going to close. Definitely closing for R2. We won't take any more R2 students. For R3, we would not be offering at 649 after the first three students. Okay, so uh, highly recommend, to get started. Even if you're applying in the January round, it would make sense to start from now so that, you take it a little slowly, take a week or two to work with us to understand your profile and everything, and then, work on applications. So Sharing the contact. Let's say, for example, if you have any questions later on, also feel free to write to us. There's a phone number, there's email ID, and I've already shared the Calendar link with you all guys. I'm again sharing the uh, team at our consulting page, just in case if you want to know a bit more about what kind of services we provide. Feel free to look at this particular link. I'll wait for a minute. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If not, then we're good to go and we'll end the session. Uh, just adding a few more things out here is that do talk to people also. This is one thing which wasn't there in the slide. Apart from talking to us, I would highly recommend talking to a few people, few from ISB, just to get a sense of it. Especially when you're writing your ISB by ISB answer, it's a very personal answer in my opinion. We can always write generic stuff. Hey, ISB offers experiential learning. ISB offers this and that. But if you can really understand, link it to your profile, and create a very personalized story with why experiential learning is important for you and why ISP's experiential learning is important for you, then that is a much more strong answer. And sometimes talking to us and talking to ISB alums or ISB current students can definitely help you with that. Okay, so this is the last piece of advice that I wanted to give you. I can see there's no more questions on the chat box, which is great. So I'm ending the webinar now, guys. Have a great day. Bye.